study session. We appreciate your time and participation as we discuss the legislative rezoning efforts necessary to implement the new land development code. We look forward to a productive conversation and your valuable insights as we move this work forward together. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to staff for their presentation and overview of the legislative rezoning process.
Thank you, Chair Eggleston. My name is Mike Sutherland. I'm the Director of Community Development for the City of Commerce City. And again, I'd like to echo your remarks. Thank you to the Planning Commission for hosting this meeting and to City Council for taking your time this evening to attend. I know they can be long weeks when you've got Mondays and Tuesdays and everything else. So really appreciate it. Tonight, we are going to talk about the legislative rezoning project. I know some of you have followed this very closely and others maybe not as much. So we're going to I'll turn it over to Heather Vidlock as the Deputy Director of Community Development to do a broad project overview. And then we also have Sungwon Han, our Principal Planner, and Allison Olson, Planner 1, who will do the draft recommendations for phase 1. So we're tackling this project in a couple of different phases. We're nearing the end of phase 1 right now, which is sort of the northern parts of the city. And we've completed most of the engagement for that effort. And then I'll finish up with the next steps, just sort of. We do plan on about an hour, and we'll try and be on time, especially with the weather. We can use your help with the microphones. I know you're all kind of familiar with the microphones, but when you're not speaking, push the button on the back of the microphone down. When you are speaking, lift it up. The microphones tend to catch everything, so we don't want to hear the side conversations, if any. So with that, I'll turn it over to Heather Vidlock.
Thank you, Mike. So we're happy to be here this evening and getting your feedback and giving you an update on where we are with the public outreach. But just a reminder of why we're doing this legislative rezoning. So two things happened in the last 2 years. In 2024, we adopted the 2045 Comprehensive Plan, and that gives us guidance in terms of land uses and maps. I'll talk about the character areas and the framework maps in a minute, but it really was the adoption of that comp plan that kicked everything off. The second piece was the work that we did in 2025 with the adoption of the new Land Development Code. However, the new Land Development Code is only applicable to properties that are undergoing annexation and zoning right now, if they came in after that code was adopted, or they will apply across the board to the whole city once we complete this legislative zoning process. So we're basically implementing the Land Development Code through the legislative zoning, which is a city-initiated zoning. Often when you see rezonings, it's an applicant talking about one particular property. This is the city doing a broad sweeping rezoning of the whole city at one time, which is called a legislative zoning. So in terms of the different types of rezonings that we're going to talk to you about tonight, and we'll get into this when we show you the maps, but we have some very straightforward rezonings where, say, the property is zoned R1 right now in the 2009 code, it goes to R1 in the 2025 Land Development Code. So there are some pretty straightforward changes that is just one for one. There are some cleanup items where we have some patchwork zoning, either where you've got agricultural properties within larger areas of industrial, or potentially when we get into the south part of the city, we have more pockets of residential within industrial. So there's those cleanup items to address those pockets. There's legacy zone districts. So when we adopted the 2025 Land Development Code, some of the 2009 zone districts went away. The I-1S zone district, the R4, the C3, and the RU. So we can't do a one for one. If there's no R4 in the new code, we have to figure out, okay, does R3 make the most sense? If there's no C3, commercial 3 in the new code, then does that property become C2 or does it become light industrial is kind of the decision point. So that's addressing the legacy zone districts. The next type of zoning has to do with PUDs. So the city has a long history of approving planned unit developments, especially in the northern part of the city. And we were hesitant to take away those PUDs. We have landowners and developers that are relying on the entitlements and the land uses that were approved in those PUDs. And so what we determined the best route would be is to allow the PUD to stay as an overlay, but assign underlying base zoning that is consistent with the land uses and the comprehensive plan. So where the PUD addresses specific development plan standards or uses, the PUD will apply. If the PUD is silent, then the underlying zoning will apply. And the last type of zoning is policy-driven changes. So again, this is this three-step process. We adopted the comprehensive plan. That included different character areas. So it broke up the city geographically into character areas, and there's primary and secondary land uses in those different character areas. There's different layers of the comp plan because in addition to the character areas, we have what are called the residential framework maps and the economic development framework maps. And then the last type of map are the corridor plans. And so those are on the major street corridors. And so there's direction in that comprehensive plan that tells us what land use is envisioned in different parts of the city. And so that's the last type of rezoning that's addressed. In terms of the project timeline, as Mike alluded to, we're breaking this into two phases. Phase one was the northern neighborhoods, and that was going through, starting in March, we launched a website, and Allison's going to speak to you about the public engagement in a second. But basically, we're wrapping up phase one with this joint study session and a summary that we'll provide to the public. And then phase two will launch in June. We have a series of open houses that we'll talk to you about in a moment. And we've already started looking at the mapping for the core city and the Irondale area. So that's the phase two. Phase three is the actual adoption, which will be an ordinance. It'll go to Planning Commission. We're anticipating in September. It takes 2 readings at council. So we anticipate that to be October and November for the first and second readings. And one just final note, we also are working on some cleanups to the land development code that we've encountered. And we're working to come forward with an ordinance that'll clean up and tidy up some of those 2025 land development code changes to coincide with the legislative zoning, so that when the new zoning is applicable, we have a nice tidy code to apply to all our properties. So I'll turn it over to Sung to talk about transit-oriented communities.
So thanks, Heather. And so the last time we were here for the joint study session back in February, we highlighted the opportunity to align with the transit-oriented communities bill as part of the legislative rezoning effort. And so I just want to take a little bit of time to provide an update where we are with that. Since we last discussed, we staff have been coordinating with the Department of Local Affairs to further finalize and calculate, one, the housing opportunity goal. And so just a reminder, the transit-oriented communities bill requires cities to calculate a housing opportunity goal for designated transit-oriented communities areas. And so for Commerce City, that's 72nd and Colorado. And so we've worked with Department of Local Affairs, DOLA, to help finalize that number. And we're sitting again close to about 1,685 units. But we've also been working with them to better understand what our zoning capacity is, to see if how well our current zoning capacity is meeting that goal. And so what we came out with is that assuming a 1-to-1 conversion between the 2009 and the 2025 Land Development Code. And so like Heather said, if R1 were to go to R1 from old to new code, R2 from old to new, and so forth, we are looking at a preliminary zoning capacity underneath the 2025 Land Development Code around 2,058 units. So we are actually surpassing the housing opportunity goal that's required through our current zoning district setup. And so this is an important note for us, just because before this analysis, we assumed and had originally scoped in the project to do a little bit more tailored engagement, specifically around these properties. But since we are already meeting the housing opportunity goal with the current zoning lineup, we anticipate just doing community engagement in this area and rolling it up with the larger engagement efforts that we plan for phase 2.
All right, speaking to the community engagement that we participated in for the phase 1 of this, staff provided several opportunities for the community to engage in public engagement. Outreach opportunities were communicated through mailers, the Commerce City Connected newsletter, and the Commerce City website, along with social media postings that kicked off the start of our public outreach. The mailers that were sent out to residents or property owners within 500 feet of substantial rezonings. These included large portions of the Eagle Creek, Reunion Ridge, Turnberry, Bell Creek, and North Range Village neighborhoods, and staff sent out roughly 450 mailers. Community engagement events included community meetings, both in person and virtual. They included one developer or development community meeting, and then office hours to communicate directly with staff. Outside of the opportunities to connect directly with staff, residents and property owners were given the opportunity to comment through a survey that generated over 32 responses.
Great, thanks, Allison. And so actually with that, I'll maybe quickly pause here to see if there are any questions that either the Planning Commission or City Council may have from the slides presented so far. Yes.
If you're going to go into this, but as far as the surveys, are there themes that they reference in the surveys in the response?
Sorry, did you say key themes or?
Yeah, key themes.
Yeah, we'll get into that next.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if this was shared with you, but residents had said to me that when they tried to do the survey, they didn't know what would be meant by like C1, C2, C3, or different industrial. They could see that it was commercial, they could see it was industrial, but they didn't know what they would be agreeing to. Is there a definitions that they can follow on that survey now?
Yes, and so we did get that feedback, and so as soon as we got it, we updated the survey to include a more robust legend. So instead of just spelling out the acronyms, we spell out C1, local commercial, C2, general commercial, and just to be more clear.
Okay. And the degrees of industrial or the degrees of commercial, what that actually means to people. I don't know that they know I don't have all of them memorized myself either.
Yeah, I think maybe what we can do as part of the future survey is provide a link to the code, particularly maybe a section that talks about the zoning district descriptions. It would be a lot to include in just one survey, but we're helpful to provide the links if people want to read up on that more.
That would be great,
Okay.
because it's those underlying uses that you might be agreeing to and saying, whoa, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah,
Or,
we could definitely
"Yes,
do that.
That's what I intended to do." Great, thank you.
with that link, maybe even put examples of it. I know a lot of folks don't understand what kind, right? What's light industrial, what's commercial, and if we could provide some examples, I know not on the survey, but in that maybe a resource page where people could click and say, oh, this is what that would look like in my neighborhood or in this neighborhood.
It's great feedback.
What was the qualification for sending out the 450 mailers? Just because I know in one North Range district, there's 2,048 homes, so it's significantly less than just that one district itself. And then the response rate of about 7.5%. Is that standard? Is that high? Is that low? It seems low to me, but I don't run these surveys on a regular basis.
So for the first question about what was the standard for the mailers, and so we try to follow the standards of our current code. And so if there are rezonings happening for a applicant-driven project, we do require mailers within 500 feet of that property. And so just being mindful of the public resources that we have, the mailers we sent out were primarily for areas where there's substantial change in rezoning. And so particularly in the next few slides, we'll talk about some of the agricultural properties that changed, that we're recommending a change in zone. And so for those instances, we sent out the mailers based on the guidance provided by our current code. And then your second question was about, did you say something about a response rate? Sorry.
Yes, and I do realize I may have done that incorrectly. So your online surveys, did they come from the mailers, or are they completely independent of the mailers?
No, they're separate. So
Okay.
the online surveys, maybe folks did know about the project from the mailers and filled out the survey, but the survey is available for anyone to fill out online.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Kiefer, let me add a little bit to that. You mentioned sort of it seems a little low in the response rate, but really the engagement has been pretty robust in our experience. I think we're kind of outpacing the comprehensive plan engagement well, let's see, maybe not the comprehensive plan, but the land development code engagement. It seems like we're outpacing that to some degree. So we've been encouraged by all the participation so far and in all the different media that we've tried to put this out to. It seems like the engagement seems to be going pretty well in our estimation. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, I incorrectly assumed that the surveys came from the mailers, but the correlation wasn't there. I apologize.
I have a question. Could you tell me in what instance there would be a silent PUD? Because Heather had mentioned that there would be that the zoning would take place if there was a silent PUD on top.
yeah, I can tackle that one.
Okay.
So several plan unit development districts will list the uses allowed, let's say. But they may not address accessory structures like a shed. That may be a silent portion of a plan unit development district. If that were the case, we would, if an application for a shed came into the community development department, we would apply the underlying zoning district standards for that shed. So anything that's not explicitly called out in either graphic or written form in the planned unit development document that the Planning Commission and City Council approved would fall to the underlying zone district. But we would keep the regulations of the PUD intact for everything else that's specifically mentioned. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I was basically going to ask something very similar, so now I don't need to.
Thank you. So you had mentioned before about the 72nd and Colorado, where we have our inline RTD transportation hub, and the proximity around that for encouragement of housing, different types of housing. Does the southern side of Commerce City have close enough proximity to either the Central Park A line or the 40th and Colorado station to make that worth looking into?
To our knowledge, those areas haven't been identified by the state as a formal transit-oriented communities area where we would apply this kind of rigorous analysis.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on here. And so for the next several slides, we'll discuss some of the key draft recommendations that help shape the creation of the draft zoning map for phase one. And so in highlighting those draft recommendations, we'll also highlight the key areas where we've gotten most of the community input from our community members. And so again, to what Heather had talked about at the beginning of the presentation, the biggest effort in phase one was rezoning the PUDs into an overlay while assigning them the base zoning for the PUD properties. And so there are kind of two primary ways that we approached this. One was when assigning the base zoning for the PUDs, we tried our best to align the PUD entitlements with the base zoning that is underneath. And then the second portion of it was, while assigning the base zoning, also understanding what the comprehensive plan was directing the future land use to be in the northern part of town. And the primary comprehensive plan land use guidance that we were especially mindful of in the northern part of town was the economic development framework map, which you all know identifies the North Range commercial and then the commercial mixed use designations to help preserve key kind of intersections and corners for commercial development. And so the first property, again, that we'll highlight where we received a lot of the community feedback is Reunion Village 8. And so Reunion Village 8 is a large vacant parcel within the Reunion PUD. It's bounded by 112th Avenue to the north, 104th Avenue to the south, Potomac Street to the west, and Chambers Road to the east. And so the PUD for Reunion Village number 8 is entitled for a broad range of residential uses, including single-family detached, single-family attached, and then also multifamily development, with the exception of the planning area that's fronting along 104th. If you look on the right-hand side of the map, where there's a little bit of the hash, and underneath that hash is the purple. That is an area in the PUD where it does consider allowances for single-family, townhomes, multifamily, but also as well as commercial development. And so our proposed zoning in the draft zoning map for phase one is to have R3, which is orange there, primarily to, again, align with the PUD entitlements that is fairly flexible in their residential allowances. And then also where a commercial is contemplated, in that purple, the base zoning that we are recommending is mixed use corridor, which would allow for multifamily, but as well as commercial development. So in terms of the community feedback that we received for Reunion Village number 8 is that folks desired for a future parks and trail system through Second Creek. And there are a particular concern around the multifamily residential developments that could potentially occur through R3, and then that folks prefer to have single family and townhomes as opposed to larger apartment buildings. So as far as the comprehensive plan guidance, it is within the city's growth boundary and is designated as the northern neighborhoods on the character district map, and as well as greenfield development on the residential development framework map. And so these designations support a mix of housing types, including single-family homes, duplexes, and townhomes, and also specifies that multifamily housing should be located near collector and arterial streets. And so in balancing the community's feedback, again, with the project objectives of assigning base zoning that helps align with the PUD entitlements and also implementing a comprehensive plan, our recommendation is to maintain the existing base zoning as originally mapped. I think it's also important noting that if the property owner were to transition away from a PUD, there would still be a formal rezoning process that would be required to relinquish the PUD and go with the base zoning. And then from then on, they would have to move forward with another entitlement process, which we're calling the overall development plan and the preliminary plat, which would, again, outline a little bit more detail in terms of the land uses and the site planning. And all those would require additional public hearings and final approval from City Council.
So it seems we continue to have more and more higher density housing. Does this have any, do we take the infrastructure we have in place for the roads and utilities such as that into account as we approve these, or is that a completely separate topic and a completely different discussion to be had?
Yeah, so do you want to address maybe the
Sure,
PUD process?
Yes. I think I understand the question. So the Planning Commission and City Council recently adopted the Transportation Master Plan, which did take into account, that was part of the comprehensive plan suite of documents, I would say. And so we are now engaged with a consultant to look at impact fees for roadways and those types of things. So I think we are kind of addressing that question with volumes of roadways and land use together with these various documents.
Okay. Yeah, my concern mainly stems around the fact that there's only two ways out to the south for the most part, and they're bounded on both sides. I mean, you've got the railway on one, you've got the Rocky Mountain Arsenal side. What's it called? Giant thing.
Yeah.
Then we have down going down Tower.
Right.
Or Tower is the same problem. There's neighborhoods all the way at the edge of it, so there's never going to be expanded. So as we do higher and higher density, it seems concerning to me that we're taking this into account as we move forward.
Let's see. So the PUD itself, and I'm sorry if I misunderstood the initial question there, but are we talking about Reunion Village filing number 8 and the transportation network that goes through there?
I mean, it was, overall, it was a reference to that. But then the overarching idea of the fact that we just keep putting higher and higher density, which is have more and more people, and we only have so much space. And at some point, the throughput's going to be exceeded, and then we're going to have some problems that I don't know we can correct.
One of the things to keep in mind is that as each area is proposed for development, the developer has to do a traffic study, and our Public Works Department works together with community development to assess what the traffic impact from that development is, what improvements the developer is going to be required to make. Many times in our city, because we're a high growth community on the northern part of the city, developers are taking an active role in building that infrastructure or paying cash in lieu funds toward future infrastructure development. So in terms of, how that all weaves in with the Transportation Master Plan and the allowances, I mean, the PUDs were approved many years ago. So we have to work within the confines of those approvals. But as I said, each subdivision plat is analyzed, and we have to make sure that the traffic is accommodated for each development that comes into the city.
Okay. And that handles all the way out to major arterial routes such as Pena.
Mhm.
And I believe all of our PUD data was fed into the Transportation Master Planning process as part of their traffic model. And so it not only looked at existing conditions, but also projected forward in terms of if the PUD were to build out with their current entitlements and a kind of planning for roadway improvements and widenings based on those assumptions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Question. Orange is R3?
That's correct.
All right. And how many units per acre on R3?
So I believe our new zoning code is focused on regulating development with what we're calling building forms, which would be focused on regulating developments with setbacks and building heights based on what is proposed to be built. But there's not a density calculation or limitation in new code.
Then what would be the difference between R3 and R1 or R2 then?
So R3 would only allow single-family homes and accessory dwelling units. R2 would allow single-family homes and duplexes. And R3 would allow single-family homes and duplexes and a variety of different types of multifamily, from townhomes to apartment buildings.
And does this PUD require approving R3? Is that part of the PUD? Is that it's already calling for high density? If you're going with base zoning, are you putting a high density in the orange because you're adding the orange as part of the PUD?
So the PUD in
As a
this,
base zoning?
yeah, in this particular case, the PUD allows a wide variety of residential in this area. So the underlying zoning that we're suggesting here allows a similar variety of residential as the PUD. But the PUD, the approved PUD would govern this property. The setbacks, the height requirements, even the FAR would be a stipulation of the PUD in this case. This underlying zoning district would provide sort of a background for anything that's not mentioned in the PUD, as we talked about earlier, and also would provide an option for the developer to say, well, I would rather work within the 2025 Land Development Code. I'll come to Planning Commission and City Council and request that my PUD overlay be removed if they wanted to do so. And we'd have a basis for what goes on underneath. So does that answer your question?
I'm trying to figure out a way to be respectful of the community feedback. And if they are concerned about multifamily residential development, and the suggestion is that it goes to R3, which would be the highest density of residential, then I'm just thinking about what the impact is of not being mindful of community feedback. And also that they ask for parks and trails. How does that get reflected in the zoning? Does that show up in the zoning at all?
So that will eventually show up with the plat. This is unplatted property, and there are requirements for open space and open lands within the development. So it will show up with the platting of the property as to what eventually where their parks and trails come in, and it may require. It's possible that they could request a comprehensive plan amendment, a land use map amendment to show those parks and trails as a green area. Right now, the PUD as it is kind of has this large area of mixed use residential that is reflected in that underlying zoning to some degree. And really, it's too early to map out exactly where the parks and trails will go until the property owner is ready to make those designations. But we're expecting that in the coming, when the property owner is ready to subdivide that property, that's something that will come to Planning Commission and City Council. Will go back to the public through the public hearing process for a more detailed input in this particular site. So,
and will the City Council and Planning Commission be voting separately on changes like this, or will it be a sweeping vote that we are asked to make?
With this particular legislative zoning request, it would all come as kind of in one sweeping piece in the September, October timeframe. But we wanted to make sure that you were all aware of the feedback that we're receiving on individual properties, the recommendations that we're making. We wanted to give you a heads up. Certainly we're trying to be respectful of the public comment as well, and trying to fit public comment with the comprehensive plan guidance for the properties in order to give you a recommendation that you can consider at the final stages of this legislative rezoning. And nothing's quite set in stone. So Sung and Allison and Heather are going to go into some other properties that you'll recognize that have similar issues as this. But, you know, we're trying to make this transition as consistent as we can with the comprehensive plan. And there are a few changes that are part of this, but that's sort of the purpose of this series of study sessions, is to keep you informed of the things you may hear from your constituents and your neighbors about this whole project.
Councilmember
I have
Dukes?
just one other question. Where is this again? I couldn't picture it in my mind. I heard Potomac and I heard 112th, and then I'm trying to picture where Reunion property is at
Just south
Potomac and
of,
112th.
just south of Bison Ridge Rec Center, right? Yeah.
That's correct, and right adjacent and across from the Turnberry neighborhood. And so it's, again, it's bounded by 112th to the north, 104th to the south, Potomac to the west, and Chambers to the east.
So that would be
Oh, like by King Supers.
Yep, just north of King Supers.
Better reference point.
North?
I
Is
always
it
think of Bison
Above,
Ridge.
no, is it the area above King Supers that's currently being developed, or is it the area to the west?
So
of King
do you see that pink corner on the bottom right-hand side?
Uh-huh.
That's where I believe the King Supers is located. That
Ah,
helps.
So
Okay.
quick question on this.
okay, thank you. That's
Uh,
it.
Quick question on this. So the goal for showing this slide, let's get back to why you're showing this in intent. Is this you're demonstrating an example of how it's going to have overlay, right? With the PUD, the previous comprehensive plan, and the possibility of having discussions. Is that why we're showing this slide here?
Yes, I think the current zoning is just shown PUD. And we're, you know, moving toward this underlying zoning district and motif, and basically wanted to show you an example of what this looks like. And it gives a little bit better flavor for, right now the zoning map just shows one color for PUDs. The underlying zoning districts will give the residents and the planning commission and city council members a better feeling for what is the comprehensive plan vision for this set of properties, and also what the PUDs are trying to accomplish with their development. So
Thank you. And so my understanding of the goal for tonight is provide examples and information so that we can understand this better. And what I heard you say, there's going to be more slides, more examples that we're going to talk through, correct? Right. And so as we look at this slide, what are the key takeaways you want us to share with residents? I would hate us to get stuck on one slide when we have multiple others. Is there a way we can talk about what are the key things you want us to know?
some key takeaway.
And key takeaways from the community, or
For showing us this slide
Yeah.
and this example, because what I'm hearing
Right.
is one of the key takeaways is that when we're doing this overlay with different zoning maps, this is a newer process that is different from how we've done it in the past as a city, right? The other pieces I'm hearing is that this is a way when we talk with our residents around the different zoning in it, we can describe why it's R3 or R2. And then I guess what I'm not hearing is the next piece is like, what's the process if residents have concerns? Is that coming to us, or is it part of the when they do a PUD amendment possibly, or whatnot? I think that's what I'm hearing, some of the concerns, like how do residents share feedback if this is a new process?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've collected the feedback as part of the phase one engagement through the surveys and through the open houses on the map itself. I guess what I will point out again is that the PUD entitlements will take precedent. And so if and when, Reunion would come forward with a development application, it would be under the assumptions of what they can build within that PUD. And the PUD,
Sorry. What I'm hearing is you said the PUD takes precedent because this is a contract that was assigned to
Yes.
establish this plot of land, correct?
correct.
And so to have any changes to a PUD, which is what we're talking about, it takes conversations with the landowner, the person who's building, the city council. If there's any changes, it has to be a mutual agreement for PUD modifications, correct?
Correct. The applicant would have to come forward with potentially a PUD modification, and that would have to even go through a public hearing process of its own.
Okay.
And so, again, the PUD takes precedence. The PUD allows for single-family homes. It also allows for multifamily developments everywhere that's within that color orange. And if and when they come with a development proposal, they're required to go through a preliminary plat process where, again, more specific conversations and details around site design, the actual land uses that they're proposing will be more clear. And that itself also has a separate public hearing process where residents can convey their
Sorry,
feedback.
Councilmember Tier, one more question or one more point, I guess. It's important to note, like, when we talk about the PUD taking precedent, if we do not respect the PUD amendment or the contract in place and we decide to do whatever, it opens up the city for legal risk. Is that correct?
Yes,
Right?
I would say. And yeah, that's probably almost off the table because the.
Great question. The application of legislative
Sorry, city
You want a
city
mic?
attorney.
There's an open mic.
And city attorney, I guess I'm asking that question in an informational, what I'm hearing, this is an informational setting to talk about these zoning changes and how there are critical points where we have to hold true to the contract and we can't do certain things.
It's a great question. It's certainly something that my staff has communicated with CD over the last year. In large part, what you're seeing, I don't think is legally problematic at all because what we're saying is we're establishing a base zoning that's not fundamentally impacting the PUD itself, right? The legal question that is posed on legislative rezoning on PUDs is a little more nuanced in instances where we're saying we're taking away the PUD and we're now formally rezoning a already approved PUD. We don't have to go down that avenue because that's not what CD is proposing.
Probably the key takeaway for the entire northern range is that, yeah, Councilmember Teeter.
Yeah, but I was just curious what that white zone next to the King Soopers area, what is that?
That's out of the jurisdiction of Commerce City.
That's
That's
in Adams County.
Adams County property, jurisdiction.
And what's the maximum height?
Oh, for this PUD, we'd have to look at the PUD specifically. I do not know offhand the maximum height within the PUD district.
So can I get just clarification between what Councilmember Duke said and what was just discussed here about the contract of the PUD? When we first discussed this several slides ago, it sounded like the base layer of the zoning was set. And then I remember hearing that we were trying to set parts of the PUD to match that underlying base. If I misunderstood that, please let me know. But it sounded like that was a direction. And we just heard we're not supposed to be changing the PUD without approval with everyone. I'm just trying to get that clarified.
Yeah, I think there's kind of three elements in there. There's the PUD, the underlying zone district, and the comprehensive plan designation. So we're trying to match all of those together in this effort. And the PUD has certain, like in this case, the PUD has certain areas where residential is allowed. The comprehensive plan has a vision for commercial development along 104th and then, 112th on the south side, right? 112th, excuse me. So we're trying to match those with the 2025 zone districts. And this is what we think, listening to the community, factoring in those different pieces of the puzzle, this is the solution that seems to make the most sense to staff.
So are we modifying the PUDs or are we keeping the original ones from years ago?
PUDs stay the same.
Okay,
We
so
are
nothing's
not
changed.
modifying any PUDs. We will not modify any PUDs.
Okay, I was just concerned that we said we were trying to match the underlying base layer, which we had changed. And I was making sure that wasn't the case, that we were changing PUDs to match that. Okay.
So it sounds like to me what we're doing is taking the PUD that's already existing and we're trying to match the most close zone underneath it. Is that right?
That's part of it. The other part is the comprehensive plan
Comprehensive plan.
designation. So we're trying to weave it all together.
Yes. Okay.
But we are not changing PUDs at all. They are the overlay.
Sure thing. So again, just highlighting different examples and also where we've received most of the community feedback and attention on. Another Reunion property, Reunion Ridge South. Another vacant piece of property owned by Oakwood along 96th Avenue, just south of several kind of existing residential subdivisions. And so similar to Village Number 8, this property is also entitled for a broad range of residential uses from single family to all the way to multifamily development. The only exception is that planning area 9G. So if you look at the pink area on the right-hand side, that is an area within the PUD where it is entitled for, again, single family homes all the way to multifamily development, but also commercial uses. And so within the PUD, is identified and designated as mixed use. And so our proposal that we have in our current draft zoning map is to, again, best align with and be consistent with the entitlements of the PUD, which would be designating areas within the PUD where it is flexible with the residential uses with R3, and where mixed use is envisioned, we would apply the city's base mixed use zoning district, which is, again, colored in pink on the right-hand side. And so similar type of feedback about just concerns that for larger multifamily development that would be, that's allowed, and again, would prefer to have the single family housing and open space, which is also allowed underneath that PUD. And we also received a request and a comment to change the mixed use based zoning to R3 from the property owner to better align with their intent for future development. And I believe they have a sketch plat that was submitted several years back that shows that pink area primarily as residential. And so when you look at the comprehensive plan, most of this area is also envisioned as northern neighborhoods and greenfield development, signifying a mix of residential housing with multifamily along arterial and collector streets. And where the current, the pink area, the mixed use zoning is applied, that is actually not an area that's identified as a priority commercial area. And so again, the economic development framework map with their mixed use commercial and North Ring commercial, it intends to promote mixed use or preserve commercial land. But this is not an area where the comp plan envisions that. And so our recommendation, again, would just trying to balance perspectives and our intent to best align with the PUDs and also implement a comprehensive plan would be to keep again the existing R3 as this with the PUD overlay, and then also change the base mixed use zoning to R3 since the comprehensive plan doesn't envision this area or prioritize this area for commercial development. And again, just a reminder that, if the property owner did ever choose to move away from the PUD, that there are separate public hearing processes, whether that's an overall development plan or a preliminary plat, where they would have to come back to the city and come before the community and city council to talk through what the design, what the layout of the land uses would look like. Yes, Councilman Teeter.
At what stage of this, do we look at widening 96th Avenue? Are we going to have enough land and stuff to do that, or to turn that 2-lane into a 4-lane?
So in the series of concept to building, we're at the zoning stage. The right-of-way widths would be done at the subdivision plat. So, making sure that we've got enough width for 96 would be done when the property owner decides, okay, now I've got a market for this property. I'm going to subdivide the property into lots that I can then sell. That's when right-of-way acquisition would occur, and we would get the needed right-of-way for 96th.
So is it too late, or?
It's kind of too early at this stage to talk about we do have the transportation master plan, but we're a little too early to talk about with zoning, we're a little too early to talk about right-of-way widths.
I can still remember the first project we did was 96th and Highway 2.
Yeah.
Back in the day, council had no idea it was going to be that close to Highway 2. Until after the fences went up, and we said, whoa, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, no, that would come with the subdivision plat.
Yeah.
And with a preliminary plat, Planning Commission and City Council would get a chance to see exactly how the right-of-way works with the adjacent properties.
Okay, thanks.
Great. And so move on to the next section here, and I'll pass it off to Allison after I present on this slide. But the next set of recommendations that shape the new zoning map, relating again back to the implementation of the comprehensive plan, was through the proposed rezonings of properties that are currently zoned for agriculture. So these properties do vary in size, but again, all of them are within the growth boundary of the comprehensive plan, which does contemplate it for potential future developments. And so where we've identified agriculturally zoned land that is vacant and not significantly constrained by access or other site limitations, we recommended zoning changes in the draft map to better align with the uses envisioned by the comprehensive plan. And so this was done primarily with the goal of improving speed to market. And so the idea is that by zoning properties for the intended uses envisioned by the comprehensive plan, the city can help those properties move into the entitlement phase much more quickly and also make them more marketable to prospective developers. And so as we've consistently noted, particularly for the larger agricultural properties, even if zoning was established that would allow residential development, property owners, again, are still required to go through what we call an overall development plan and a preliminary plat, which would provide more detail in terms of the site layout and the land uses for the proposed development. And both of those processes, again, would require public hearings and ultimately final approval from City Council.
All right, one of the key areas that we got a good deal of feedback about from residents is the Shell properties. These are located just east of Highway 2 and East 96th Avenue. One of the primary concerns that came up was the potential for preempting the zoning that would allow for a larger scale development to happen right next to two existing residential areas. So staff initially had put the proposed zoning to be R2 for those agricultural properties. That lighter green that you can see is open space zoning. But as a result of some of the council feedback, community feedback, and internal staff discussions, staff has reverted that proposal and is now proposing those to remain agricultural with open space and then retaining that existing C1 zoning right along East 96th. And then looking at this, these are going to be the other identified agricultural zoning properties. Each of them have varying different zonings. Staff made these decisions based off of the character areas, economic development framework maps, residential framework maps, along with considerations for existing conditions, roadway classifications, and incorporating new zoning districts such as the corridor campus and the corridor mixed use. So this is a look at the existing current zoning map, and then this is a look at the proposed zoning map.
And we can pause there for questions as well. We only have a couple more slides before we conclude it. So, okay.
And then as Heather mentioned, one of the types of rezoning that we would be doing is addressing the legacy zoning districts. These are zone districts that existed within our 2009 land development code, but were not carried forth into our 2025 land development code. That'll be the I1S, C3, R4, and RU zone districts. There was only one within the northern range that fit within this criteria, and that would be a C3 that was rezoned to C2.
And so just to report back on other types of feedback that we received throughout the process that didn't completely directly relate to the scope, but still want to at least flag and make folks aware, is that we also received a variety of ideas related to just the desire for parks, trails, and open space improvements that would come, as development occurs within the city. There was some appreciation for the commercial zoning that was applied as part of the base zoning for the PUD overlays to preserve commercial to preserve commercial where the comp plan supports it. Again, ongoing concerns about how future infrastructure improvements would support and accommodate the growth that's anticipated in Commerce City. The desire for more sit-down restaurants and additional grocery options. And then also more targeted feedback on certain properties to better reflect existing land uses or projects that are currently in process by the city today.
I'm just curious. So that's the same feedback I hear from everyone. I talk to a lot of people in the northern area. And it just seems as though we're moving towards a R3 designation, just the ones that were given an example from possibly R2 or commercial as well. How is it that we're aligning with their feedback by doing this? I understand you're giving more flexibility with R3 over, say, R2 or R1. But I just don't see how we're doing anything that you're getting from the feedback where it seems like we're going the opposite direction with that. You're giving flexibility, but you're not mandating any of the requirements or the feedback that's given. In that area, they've been lied to before. I mean, a lot of people in that area are very concerned about things like that. They're told, we're going to do these things, we're going to have these parks and trails, we're going to have this big ice house, all these other things. And then as soon as everything's approved, it changes. And all of a sudden, with that flexibility they're given, the developer does something entirely different, which doesn't sit well with the community. And it happens time and time again. I'm just concerned how we're stopping that by doing this. And if you can explain how you're doing that, please.
So I think part of what we're trying to do is also, be honest about the feedback that we are receiving. But also, I think there are some realities of what this project can accomplish. So in going back to the previous slides presented at the beginning, the two primary goals for this project is one, to implement the 2025 Land Development Code by rezoning the city into that new code. And the second is trying our best to implement the comprehensive plan as part of those rezonings. And so I think just the reality is that, a lot of the feedback that's summarized in these slides, the desire for more sit-down restaurants and grocery options, those are things that expand beyond zoning, right? And the desire for more parks, trails, and open space improvements, those are the things that will come with as development occurs. And so I think we're best trying to hear from the community, but also be honest with, how much of it we can actually incorporate and directly address through this project. And so I just want to at least kind of acknowledge that. And so we're just trying to do our due diligence of reporting back what we've heard, even though maybe it doesn't always directly relate or within the scope of the rezoning project, especially considering the northern part of town where it is PUDs and the entitlements are locked in, if that helps.
Sure. So just so I understand what you're saying, well, you do listen to the community. If you take their feedback, it doesn't necessarily reflect, it doesn't reflect at all in what's happening. That's done between the city and developer, and whatever happens there. It's great if it lines up with the community feedback, but if it doesn't, there's not much to be done about that. Is that correct in what you're saying?
So I think we'll also need to be careful in terms of the community feedback that we get from this process is not the only time we'll consider feedback as part of the development process, right? And so again, this is high level zoning, but when projects come in again to move forward with the development process, whether that's through the PUD, if a developer were to develop under the PUD, again, there's that preliminary plat process, which would outline more details about the platting, the location of the open space. And those are the times when, the community can provide more direct feedback in terms of the actual design that's proposed. And so when we think about community feedback, I think it's mindful of when that feedback comes in response to the project that we're discussing. And for, what we're discussing here today, which is very high level zoning, we're not always going to know where the open space is located. We're not always going to know where the trails are located. But there are opportunities through the land development code and development review process to make use of that feedback when an actual development is proposed.
Okay, so at what stage is it most beneficial for community feedback? When does that have the most impact and the direct effect of what's going to happen then?
So, I think when you think about community feedback, I think it's important in all facets of it, right? And so if you go back to the comprehensive plan, there was a lot of community engagement done up front to help create that plan, and a lot of engagement with city council and planning commission to create the character district map, the economic development framework map, the residential development framework map, to create the high level policy guidance for future land use. And so I think community feedback obviously there is critical, but it's not influencing a specific development application. And that same community feedback is also critical in the development review process when there's an active proposal available to review and comment on. And so I think the community feedback is critical. It's just how it's used and processed depending on the project at hand, whether it's a larger policy document or an active development project.
Yeah, thanks, Sung. And thanks for the question too. Community feedback, we welcome that at any stage. This particular effort, we're trying to share all of the community feedback we've received. Some of that is going to fit into later development phases. It's important at this point to get feedback about overall land uses that are allowed, whether a property is industrial or whether it's residential, and also to manage expectations about what we are able to do, knowing that there is no directive from the city to change PUDs in any way. That is, something we're trying to build into this map, a better sense of what those PUDs actually allow. There have been some frustrations about the generalness of PUDs and what they allow. But I think with this rezoning effort, that's going to be at least clearer in the zoning map, as Sung showed in one of the slides. The zoning map right now is all kind of this PUD color, kind of a mustard color. And you can't really tell what's going on, but with these underlying zone districts, it'll really help the Planning Commission, the City Council, and the citizens to get a better grasp of what is allowed, not only with the PUD, but the underlying zoning districts, and what is anticipated by the comprehensive plan in these areas. So I think overall, it'll really be a helpful project in that regard.
Yeah, Ryan, I was going to say, I think there's immediate benefits from this, which is that immediately we get transparency, symmetry of information. because with PUDs, they're opaque to most people, anyone who's looking to buy a house. What's this land zoned for? The farmland next to here, what's it going to become? You need a lawyer to understand a PUD. So they're actually doing really cool work translating this into actual just zoning, which is like a fixed set, not boutique documents, what each PUD is. And these PUDs are not really going to go anywhere fast. They're quasi law, right? The way they're set up. So that aspect I think is really, really good, enabling the buyer side to actually have the full information about what house they're buying or renting. I think that's pretty powerful.
I don't disagree. I understand what they're doing, and that's not the concern I had. The concern I had was that it doesn't seem that community feedback has any bearing on it whatsoever. But it seems like we're trying to say that it is, and I'm just trying to see if it doesn't now, when in the future does it, or does it ever? And that's the concern. I understand. I do like that we're trying to. So.
I mean, I guess it's good that we're officially logging it and it's here being cataloged. That like this is what people think, the residents. Yeah. But right, I see what the city's response is. When there's real significant feedback, they will back off. They've backed off of the most aggressive or largest changes, like, for example, the Shell properties from community and council feedback. But they really, by law, they have to adhere to the PUDs and the plan. So I think that's kind of what the community feedback right now is helping with.
I understand. I have a frustration, but it's not going to get anywhere. It's going to keep going around circles. So I appreciate your responses.
Thank you. I think part of it is when it's presented to the public for their feedback, the PUDs are just so complicated that it becomes managing expectations, particularly when you're on the political side of the equation, if you will, right? So if you're asking for feedback, people are under the impression that their feedback potentially has an impact. But what they don't realize is that in the north, this is going to be different than in the south, but in the north, these PUDs already exist, which are little compartments of zoning that was created by the developer with approval by a city council and a planning commission long ago. So we are left with what that is. But I do have a very specific question about a grocery store. How we get to another grocery store. So let's say you have a PUD. What zoning does a grocery store fall into? Which one of the commercial zonings does a grocery store fall into? And does that zoning have to be part of the PUD first for a grocery store?
So I don't know how all PUDs regulate grocery stores, but they're generally permitted and allowed in our commercial districts and in our new code, the mixed use commercial districts as well.
So you would have that because we just had one come through not long ago that was on 104th between Tower and Walden. And the developer very specifically said, I can't do a grocery store here. It was all going to be pad commercial. So that was why I was hoping that we can make certain that grocery stores are allowed in these commercial districts, but it will depend on what the PUD says. And generally speaking, a PUD might say it. It just depends on the size of the land, I suppose, available land.
Right. Again, the PUD is the controlling document. So they could always request a PUD amendment to allow a grocery store. We would compare that to the underlying zoning district and say, gee, that fits with the underlying zoning district, and bring that forward to Planning Commission and City Council as a amendment to that individual PUD, and it works. If they're requesting a grocery store in a PUD that has an underlying district of R1, they may need to request a comprehensive plan amendment as well to make that happen. So there's a variety of different ways that could occur. But generally, our commercial districts do allow grocery stores in one form or another, in the mixed use districts as well.
Okay, we'll keep pitching for grocery stores then. Thank you very much.
So, all right. So this is near the conclusion of our presentation. Next steps, we will wrap up the draft map for phase one, and that will be loaded onto the website. Really, Allison and Sung have created a marvelous website. I would encourage you to visit it. It shows you the existing zoning, the comprehensive plan designation, and the proposed zoning. It is a remarkable tool, and it shows them all together at once. Kind of fun to navigate it, but that'll be uploaded to the draft map late May, and then June and mid-July we'll kick off phase two engagement, which will be the Irondale and Core City portions. And we'll have open houses. There will be a virtual open house on June 18th. There'll be an open house at Eagle Point Rec Center on June 24th. And then we'll, of course, do office hours for anybody, and we'll have the draft map for phase one, but we won't like stop engagement. We'll kind of continue for anybody who wants to ask staff questions with phase one, but we'll really kick off phase two and focus on that in June and mid-July. So we'll continue to use the online tools, and we'll do the pop-ups as well, which are in that green section there. The near term, we've got the music in the park and the speak up events that we'll be present at. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the presentation, and any other questions?
Well, just one question on this, and a recommendation if you don't do this already, but in the sake of education and educating our community, I don't know if you have a FAQ so that residents know what this is and what this is not. Because there are comments and there are different parts in the process to give feedback and public input, which we all understand. But when they come to this location, they may not know like what's happening. So there might be some education that needs to take place to help, and especially in the South. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think the other thing too is the enclaves of Adams County, unincorporated Adams County in the South. I think some FAQs about that, or an educational piece, because folks think it's Carmer City and it's not. And why isn't this included? I think that'll save us a lot of time, or you all, for questions. Again, I think just the education piece of why an industrial building is next to my block, but then I go up north and it's all farmland. So definitely echo what Councilman Duke said.
Yeah, because it helps with some of the frustration, right, beforehand. So some of the comments around, residents' engagement and comments, I mean, it could be frustrating for folks if they're like, hey, I said this and you didn't do anything with it. But on our end, we're like, well, we can't do anything with it, but there's just an education opportunity with this rezoning for our whole community. So just want to put it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commission.
Next time we'll come back and reconvene City Council and Planning Commission will be June 22nd, and that is a council night. So appreciate council coming on a Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, staff.
In the snow. Thank you. Congratulations again.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, round two.
Drive safe.
Hey, yeah, I know.
So good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
North will be, South will be interesting,
Yeah.
because there's a lot more, in your thing, you asked them. And that's a conversation.
Yeah,
What are they gonna plan for that?
exactly. No doubt it is.
When would this audience be here for?
Well, I guess we'll wait for you.
I sound like, oh, do I sound stupid? Really? Oh, wow. Oh, awesome. I knew that. I did. Okay, great. Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Oh, boy. Okay. I just saw this.
Absolutely.
It's good to see you.
All right, Scott, see you soon.
Residential rentals, that thing, yeah. Okay, very cool.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm going. Just carry my crap. Oh, and my, yeah, I know. Need to know who I am.
Unique. Are interacted by different people.
Got it. Thank you. Hey, sorry, I have no hands. I'm gonna, yeah. Did I tell you when we were walking that my stepdad was just diagnosed? He died.
Oh, good. I like to try to put these, yeah. I think this is a really great first step to just making everything simpler. Baby step.
3 weeks ago.
And hopefully as time goes on and we're able to provide more educational opportunities in the community.
People get, yeah, it's complex.
It is.
The whole process.
Yeah, I do remember. Are you guys? Oh, thanks for asking. Mom's, 30 years. All this. Step.
You don't need me.
Well, yeah, it's now. Nauseated. How Jay felt before he died. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, sit with mom. I have to go to this plan commission. So. Thanks.
Good to see you.
You too. And I got your Daryl Watson. I had to go home to the family though, but I was at home.
No, that's okay.
So, but
You know,
he keeps it
the
in
Pine
mind.
District 9, that borders us, Denver.
Yes, yeah,
Darryl
yeah.
Watson has been from mine for
Yeah,
many
yeah.
years.
I sit on his council.
Oh, do you?
Oh,
Well, I have some pics of him back when he was just 22, 23, dancing, and I was a bartender back then, before I became a nurse. Now I'm like, we both changed our careers. You know?
So
He was
you're
just-
taking care of people either way, right?
Yeah, exactly. I used to medicate them by the glass full. Now I just do it with IVs.
All right. Have a good
All
night.
right, well.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes.
I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Will the staff please do roll call? Oh,
We're just checking with the AV. If you can,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, just bear with us one second. We're trying to
Sure.
make sure the technology and the recording is working.
Sorry about that. I had to let the streaming people know that we were continuing with another meeting. All right, so it is now 7:37. We will go ahead and get started this evening. When you are speaking, please be sure to unmute your microphone to be heard on the broadcast. The public who did not register in advance can watch the live broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. Para servicios de traducción en español en vivo, por favor marque 720-386-9023 y use el código 104091 asterisco.
I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Will staff please do a roll call?
Commissioner Sanchez. Commissioner Van Husen.
Present.
Commissioner Schechter.
Present.
Commissioner Eggleston.
Present.
Commissioner Nelson.
Present.
And Commissioner Kiefer.
Present.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you, Frank. Can I get a motion and second on the records for Commissioner Sanchez's absence as excused or unexcused?
I motion we excuse Commissioner Sanchez.
Second.
I'll second. Oh.
Who second? Terrell? Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Huzen and a second by Commissioner Nelson. Please open the electronic voting.
Oh, give me just a second. I have to update Mr. Kiefer.
Oh, sure.
Okay, you can go ahead and vote.
The motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos. Will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. So before getting to our agenda this evening, I would like to recognize Commissioners Ryan Kiefer and Tyrell Nelson as alternates who will be sitting in on the commission this evening. Can I get a motion and second to approve the April 7th, 2026 meeting minutes?
I motion we approve such meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Huzen and a second by Commissioner Schechter. Please open the electronic voting. The motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos. I will open the public hearing on case Z 24-0005, Pierpont Realty Group annexation zone change. The applicant has requested that this case be continued to the next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for June 2nd, 2026. With that, I ask the applicant, oh, he's not here to address, right? Oh, I ask the applicant to address the commission.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time tonight. My name is Matt Redmond. I'm the member of the local project management team for Adams Crossing LLC. And my address is 34655 County Road 18, Keensburg, Colorado. And as you have in front of you, we're just requesting a continuance to the next meeting on June 2nd for the annexation hearing for the parcel that is located at Chambers and 120th. We're working with the city right now on the actual annexation agreement, as well as some internal cost estimating for site improvements, and want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in the row for the sake of everyone's time. We've been working with Mr. Chavez through this process, and he's been really helpful to move this along as efficiently as possible. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to continue the case till the June 2nd, till June 2nd, 2026?
Yeah, I'll motion to continue the case to the June 2nd regular meeting.
A second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Nelson and a second by Commissioner Kiefer. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Is there any member of the public who is here to speak on this case tonight? Has anyone signed up virtually?
No, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please open electronic voting. The motion passes, 5 yeses, 0 nos. So we'll see you next month on June 2nd. Sure. I will open the public hearing on case PUDA 25-0003, Urban Moment PUD Zone Document Amendment. The applicant will present, followed by staff. At the conclusion of both presentations, I will open the floor for any questions from the commission. Once all the questions have been asked, the public will have their turn to speak on the case. We will start with members of the public attending in person before moving to those attending virtually. With that, I will ask Deputy Director Heather Vidlock to please announce this case and introduce the applicant.
Thank you, Chair Eggleston. This is case number PUDA 25-0003. Urban Moment is requesting approval of a PUD zone document amendment to modify the allowable uses from commercial and residential to planned residential development. The requested amendment will also expand the boundary of the PUD to the east. The subject property is located at 10230 Chambers Road and consists of approximately 16.81 acres. And the applicant can come forward with their presentation. I can advance the slides for you if that's helpful. Just raise your hand every time you want me to switch.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Brad Holland with Urban Moment Development. I want to start by thanking you all for your time this evening and allowing our team to make our proposal for the property at 10230 Chambers Road. The project team, as mentioned, includes Urban Moment Development as the applicant and developer. We also have HKS Civil on board as the civil and transportation engineer, as well as Norris Design, who will be the land planner and landscape architect as well. A background on Urban Moment: we are based in Austin, Texas. Historically, we've been focused on the 4 major MSAs: Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston. Since then, we've expanded into Colorado and North Carolina. At this time, we have 10 active yard home communities totaling approximately 2,500 residences. And understanding, our team knows that this yard home product type is pretty unique to Commerce City, and so the following slides will provide a little bit of additional context in terms of who our resident profile is, as well as our product type. The information before you has been gathered over time through surveys conducted by our third-party property managers. I will touch on a few of these in the interest of time this evening to make sure we can move through this quickly. The first one I'll touch on is that 60% of our primary residents are women. We believe this exists because our communities are safe and secure, in part by the inclusion of Ring doorbells at the entrance of every unit. The second one I'll touch on here is that we find that 80% of our residents opt to renew their leases, which is well above and beyond what is typically seen for traditional multifamily communities. That to us shows that our residents love to call our communities home. And we also see that when residents start to invest in patio furniture and string lights for their private yards as well. We've decided to include an example site plan here, again, understanding that this is a very unique product type for Commerce City. This is an example from one of our communities in Texas. I'll touch on a few of the elements that we like to include in our projects just to give an idea of what could be provided if this application were allowed to move forward. One thing I'll point out is the central amenity center. That will include the leasing office, clubhouse, fitness center as well, and it'll also have a pool adjacent to it typically, as well as a great lawn that's used for resident events or just daily resident use. The other item I'll touch on here, as you can see, each home will have its own private yard. Those yards will range anywhere from 900 to 1,000 square feet, just depending on the location throughout the community. The other item I'll touch on is that we spend a lot of time with our landscape architects ensuring that our communities are very walkable. And so you'll see the curvilinear primary drive that's running from east and west throughout the site. We tend to try to do enhanced plantings there. So in this version, you'll see the trees. You'll also see some parallel parking there, but that is intended to be that primary corridor for vehicles, but more importantly, our residents to travel from their homes to the amenity center to check their mail or just take their pets out for a walk in the evening. We've also included some slides here just to give a good idea of what the architecture looks like. As you can see, each home will have its own dedicated primary ground floor entry. We also have 1-story and 2-story homes that allows flexibility for our residents to choose a floor plan that'll work best for their needs as well. You can also see the variation in the architectural features as well as color schemes that we can provide. And these homes are designed to help make sure that the product type can be in line with what is typically seen in our surrounding neighbors and the surrounding context of the community as well. We've also included some slides here just to show the interior finishes of our homes. Our homes, in terms of the finishes, are going to meet or exceed what is typically found in your average new single-family construction home today. We include stainless steel appliances, and we place a lot of emphasis on bringing in as much natural light as we can for our residents as well. And then we just included a few slides, or a slide here, a few images of that Great Lawn that I mentioned that'll be adjacent to the leasing and clubhouse center. We've also got some images here, just a representation of what our typical green pedestrian corridors will look like. We like to add some plantings there, as well as some seating options for residents as they're moving throughout the property. And we've also included an image of our pocket park at one of our communities in Texas as well. And then we go to the site overview. So this site is located about 900 feet south of 104th Avenue. It sits between Chambers Road and Adalia Street. The property is approximately 16.8 acres, and it is currently zoned PUD under the existing Hogan PUD. We've also included a zoning map here just to show where the site sits in the existing zoning uses around the site. As you can see, it's predominantly PUD in its area. Most are used as your traditional single-family detached subdivisions. The other thing to note here is that there's a utility corridor that runs to the northern property boundary of this site, and that creates a delineation between the commercial uses that are along 104th Avenue and those residential uses to the south of that corridor. Just a brief overview of the project timeline. The efforts on this project started in June of last year. We went through a pre-application process. Since then, we've been coordinating with staff and community stakeholders to inform the proposal and do our best to ensure that it's in line with the expectations and the expectations of Commerce City. Following what we hope will be a favorable consideration by Planning Commission and City Council, the project will move forward into the development permit and final plat process. Existing entitlements here, we thought it would be helpful to show what is currently allowed in the existing Hogan PUD. As you can see, the site is half of the original Hogan PUD and currently slated for 8 acres of commercial uses, as well as 8 acres of single-family detached residential. Given that the site lacks direct frontage to 104th Avenue and the adjacent utility corridor, the site has proven to be unattractive to commercial developers looking for opportunities in the area. As such, the highest and best use for the site lends itself to be more suitable for a transitional residential product. With that intention in mind, we are proposing an amendment to the existing PUD to have this portion of the property reassign the intended land use from commercial and single-family residential to a multifamily residential designation. We are also proposing to extend the boundary of the PUD to include the 27J parcel that's in that eastern corner that is just to the east of the larger property. As mentioned, we are requesting to simplify the land use from a mix of commercial uses and single-family detached to multifamily residential. This amendment and land use will align with current housing demand and market needs in Commerce City. The PUD zoning format allows the ability to create standards for the yard home product type, which has very unique designs needs that a standard zoning category cannot clearly accommodate. When the project launched, the city was mid-process on a code update. At that time, we chose to move forward under the existing code at that time to avoid timeline uncertainty. Our team took the existing code sections that were pertinent to multifamily development and included them within this PUD to ensure that we knew what the design standards would be for the development. These design standards set the framework for the development, such as building height, setbacks from roadways and property boundaries, parking minimums, and additional guidelines for community elements like landscaping, architecture, and open space provided. As part of the application process, we did host 2 separate neighborhood meetings in March per city requirements. The first neighborhood meeting was in person on March 15th. We had one person from the neighborhood attend that meeting. We offered a second virtual neighborhood meeting at the end of March, and we had no attendees present. We've also been fielding comments after those neighborhood meetings that have been raising concerns with staff, and we're trying to make sure that we're responding thoughtfully and giving as much information as we can to those comments. Key considerations that we've heard throughout this process, we're dealing with site access, internal circulation, prairie dogs that are existing on the site presently. And then we will, from the design side, as part of the future development process, we'll make sure we take a lot of those considerations into account. We are very aware of the sensitivity to traffic in this area as well. As such, we wanted to make sure that we included some information here on what we believe the traffic impact would be in this area. Our team conducted an analysis shown in front of you that compares what the traffic impact would be of the proposal versus the impact of the land uses that are currently allowed. What we're seeing is that this proposal to change the PUD, the traffic demand would be reduced by 75% compared to the impact of those existing land uses in the current PUD. To be clear on these slides and the few that will follow, they are not necessarily tied to the application before you tonight. We wanted to make sure we showed these because they provide further context as to what the proposed design changes are meant to accommodate in terms of some of the design elements that we like to see throughout our communities. Because of that, we feel like it's important to make sure that we're highlighting this in the event that we are able to move forward with this application and we're able to show what we intend to provide with the community. For starters, the conceptual site plan is geared to accommodate 17% of the site as open space. Once you include the on-site detention, that grows to 24%. Much of the open space provided is designed to support resident use and promote an active and high-quality level of life. Certain features such as trail connections, which you can see at the northern boundary of that dog park, and additional pedestrian connections can present some opportunities to be accessible to the public. In addition to that, as mentioned earlier in the presentation, our proposal includes the expansion of the PUD to include the parcel here with 27J. We've been in touch with the 27J School District to purchase this property. And the goal here was to provide a flexible gathering space. We understand that the market and this community is sensitive to losing commercial space. That was one thing that we thought we could provide here is a low impact, self-contained parking food truck court that would be able to add a bit more benefits to the broader community nearby. Again, as currently envisioned, that'll be a food truck court, but the actual use will be further refined once we get into the site development review process. Another thing we wanted to touch on here is the housing diversity that this product type could offer. As many of us are aware, there's an ongoing need for housing throughout Commerce City. As part of the recently released 2025 Housing Needs Assessment, single-family detached homes dominate Commerce City, and they represent approximately 80% of the existing housing stock. Multifamily represents just 9% of that existing housing inventory, with horizontal multifamily or cottage courts representing only 8% of that number. And so that just highlights the unique nature of this product type and how it can help add to that diversity that Commerce City is looking for from a housing perspective. And then lastly, we wanted to touch on the compliance with the city's vision for housing today and into the future. This housing product and PUD amendments are consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and goals for the Northern Neighborhoods Character Area, which lists attached homes and multifamily housing as both a primary and secondary land use respectively. This character area prioritizes residential uses, a range of densities, and a range of product types to support all residents. The following slides will outline the comprehensive plan goals that the proposal meets or exceeds. And so this PUD amendment touches on many of the comprehensive plan goals. The proposal leads to promotion of a range of housing options to support a variety of ages and incomes and lifestyles. The proposal also supports building communities with strong design, open space, and amenities, as well as creating a stronger sense of community there. It also promotes communities that are well connected and safe for a variety of transportation modes, including supporting bicyclists and pedestrians. The proposal also encourages communities that add to the city's interconnected parks and open space network. And lastly, the proposal helps to provide balance to the city's mix of land uses and prioritizes development of lands with access to the existing infrastructure. In closing, we wanted to touch on how this proposal meets the approval criteria for PUD amendments under Code Section 21-3251-3. The PUD is consistent with the policies and goals of the comprehensive plan. The PUD allows a unique residential product to be achieved, which will be designed in such a way that provides high quality design and improvements to the community. The PUD complies with city standards. The PUD continues to be well integrated and connected to the larger community. The PUD does not intend to have any adverse impacts, but will work with the city to mitigate any issues that may arise during the development review, the development permit application process. And as an infill development, this PUD will take advantage of the existing utilities and services already provided in the area without creating a burden on that existing infrastructure. Lastly, because of the existing code guidelines at the time of this application submission, a development such as this was best accomplished with amending the existing PUD in place. Thank you for your time again, and we're happy to answer any questions that the commission or the attendees may have. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions for the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Kiefer?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that. I just had a concern about the traffic study you listed. It said there's a 4x reduction I'm curious how that was about. So it was eight acres as commercial, 8 acres as residential originally. How did you calculate the original amount of traffic that would be there if it was as it's set today? And how did you calculate it with the intended use case that you're presenting?
Sorry for cutting you off, but that's a great question, Mr. Kiefer. We worked with our, again, HKS, who's on board as our civil and transportation engineer. What we did is we used the common trip generation rates for those existing product uses, so commercial as well as that single family detached. And those rates come from the ITE trip generation manual. And so it's a common standard that's applied throughout the development industry when it comes to understanding what those transportation impacts are. And so we use those rates to understand what the actual trip generation and traffic impact would be if the site were to be developed with those current uses that are allowed in the existing PUD. And then for our product type, we use the trip generation rate that was agreed upon with staff as we were working through the scope of our traffic study earlier this year. And so we're using the low-rise multifamily classification to show what that traffic impact would be.
Okay. And it would be assumed that if you had commercial, most likely the trips generated as it stands today probably come from the local area, whereas changing to this situation where it's all new residential, you'll be adding additional vehicles to the overall area there, correct?
I think it just depends on, again, where the residents are coming from. In terms of the information we provided, it was more so just trying to get an understanding of, again, what that impact would be if the site were to move forward with the existing uses, and then what that would be if we were able to move forward with the proposal here. But I think it's tough to understand exactly where those trips would generate. I know there's a big need for additional retail in this area. And so, I think it's just a little tough to understand exactly where those, the trips would be coming from in terms of what those uses would be.
Commissioner Kiefer, to better address your question with regard to the difference between retail and residential when it comes to trip generation, the traffic study uses peak hour analysis, so AM peak and PM peak. And so retail has a much higher AM and PM peak generator when it comes to trips than residential does. So what the traffic study in this project showed is that by changing the land use from commercial to this type of residential, they would actually see a reduction in the trip generation rates during those AM and PM peak hours.
Okay. My next question, I'm just looking at your the examples you gave, and obviously I know they aren't the one that you're planning to do here. Are you going to have garages, or is everything going to be on-street parking with those?
We do have detached garages that are provided throughout the communities. We typically try to have about 40% of garages relative to the number of units. And those would be, again, just thoughtfully spread out throughout the property to ensure that all of the homes and residents in those individual homes will have great access to those garages. But yeah, it's a combination of surface parking. We also have carports and detached garages as well.
And would those be additional expense over the standard lease rate for the property?
Yes.
And then you're offering for the commercial, and I do appreciate you trying to do something in the sense of replacing the commercial area there for the food truck area. Is that it's hard to say from the design, but is that mostly a dirt lot with some seating area, or what's intended there?
That's what's envisioned there. Again, the actual design of that will be further refined once we get into the site planning process here. At this time, we're really just working on the zoning here. What we were showing in that example was just based on conversations, again, with community stakeholders, what could be a real benefit to the broader community there. But again, we're open to taking input from different community stakeholders to understand what that site can best be used for to be a broader benefit to the community.
Okay. And then the final question I have to address the affordability. What do you guys usually have for your rent rate increase over time? Just because my mortgage stays the same, according to the taxes on it. So I'm locked in at the day I bought it. Rent obviously increases over time. What's your guys' average rent rate increase on these properties most places?
There's not an average. It's really market specific and sub-market specific at that. In markets where you have a lot of multifamily units being delivered, those rent growth rates will be a lot lower. If you're in an area where it struggles to have multifamily units delivered, then you may see some higher rent growth rates there. But it truly just depends on demand and supply, how many units are coming online, and what that demand is for that type of product as well.
What kind of rent rate do you guys have that's usually to the median income for the area there?
It's market rate rentals. I want to say the beginning rates here are somewhere in like the $1,700 or $1,800 range. For us, we like to say that it's attainable because with what you're getting, the quality of life here, the privacy, the security, no one living above or below you, is extremely similar to what you would experience with your traditional single-family subdivision home. But the rental rates in Commerce City, specifically when you're going to rent that 2,000 or 2,500 square foot 3 or 4 bedroom home, typically is going to be higher in the $2,000 to maybe $3,000 range. And so this provides an opportunity to get into, again, something that's going to give you that same quality of lifestyle, but at a much lower price point than what you would see with your traditional single family homes.
So just for clarification, you're saying that you're going to have roughly a 2,000 square foot home, give or take, and then it would be $3,000 a month on the high end would be the expected?
No, so our average unit size is about 900 to 950 square feet.
Okay.
I don't think we have any units that are in the $3,000 range. Again, our rates for some of our smaller one bedrooms would be in that $1,700 or $1,800 range, and then it'll just go up from there depending on the number of bedroom counts and the actual size of the units. But again, typically our units are average, if you're looking at across the communities, it's going to be somewhere between like 900 and 950 square feet.
And just roughly $1,800 a month for that is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Van Huzen.
Thank you. I skipped over how many units again, and then the number of bedrooms, please.
So right now it's envisioned as 227 units. I do not have the number of bedrooms on hand, but we can get that to you.
So, but the average for each unit, 1.5, I mean, just out of curiosity, right?
Yeah, so it's predominantly, I'd say we're probably 90 to 95% 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. And then we have the other remaining 5% or so would be 3 bedroom floor plans. So It's much more closer to that, like you said,
and none are studio only?
No, it's all 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? So I have a question. I didn't hear you say how much these rentals are going to be marketed for.
Yes, I touched on that with Mr. Kiefer's question.
Yeah, and I didn't hear what you said.
The beginning rates for the smaller 1 bedrooms would be in that $1,700 to $1,800 range.
For the 1 bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the market rate for the North Range of Commerce City?
To my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Because that's about what the Section 42 apartments are going for in that area. So I'm just wondering if you guys have looked at the market rate, and because you're from Texas, if this is based on units you already have existing, or if you've looked at the market rate in the North Range of Commerce City and basing your prices on that.
Yeah, so it's because of the product type being unique, it's tough to have a direct comp with a traditional multifamily product. And that's more so due to, again, some of the benefits that you're getting in terms of the quality of life. You're having your own private yard. Typically, if you look at a traditional multifamily community, those units that are on the ground floor that will have its own private yard, they'll typically have a premium to that rental rate, which in anywhere from our research will be $125 to maybe $150. When we are understanding what our rental rates would be, we look at a combination of the traditional multifamily communities as well as the traditional single-family homes that are also in that area. But more importantly, we try to find the similar product types as ours in the area as well. And sometimes we have to look out a little further than we like to, but we use those to kind of guide where our rental rates will land. And so it's a combination of looking at, the comparable cottage court or cottage communities that are in the area, as well as understanding where those traditional multifamily communities are priced and figuring out, depending on location and other factors, where it makes sense for our product type to land from a pricing perspective.
Okay, so right now it sounds to me like you guys do not know what you're going to rent it for. You're basing it on market value.
We have an idea, but, again, it's depending on where the market is at the time. If the market is, at $1,600 for a 1 bedroom, obviously we can't lease those units if we're going to be $200 more expensive for that. And so it'll adjust based on, again, the supply and demand and how the inventory is at the time.
Okay, I think those are all the questions I have for you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff? Oh, Commissioner Kiefer?
Thank you. I just had one more question. I was listening to you speak here. I'm not sure if you're here for our past discussion we had this hour before. There was concern about the interest of the community. Obviously, not much can be done when there's a PUD set in place, but you're asking to amend a current PUD. So there's residents that bought homes in that area surrounding that property. How are you mitigating the effects of, because they thought there was going to be commercial there, they thought it was going to be single family homes. And there's a difference between buying a single family home and owning it and living there as opposed to renting. It's no two ways about that. How are you mitigating the effects of that change to not negatively impact the surrounding area of the homes that are currently there? They thought it was going to be something else.
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, that's more so on the site plan side, which again, we haven't done a lot of deep dive into that since we're only focused on the zoning aspect. But based on conversations we've had, and this is going back to the early pre-application meeting with staff, we've had a concept plan, and that has changed quite a few times as we've continued to have those ongoing coordinations. One of the things that we did was we relocated our primary east and west drive aisle to be further away from that southern property line. The goal there is to make sure that we don't have residents to the south of us having to deal with a lot of car noise, a lot of doors closing, headlights, and things at different times of the night. And so we're taking those things into account, and we've already made those adjustments to the site plan to make sure that we are having the least amount of impact on those existing neighborhoods as possible. One of the other things, we'll have a green border along that southern property line. Right now in the concept plan, I think all the structures are at a minimum 20 feet off of that southern property boundary, which is above and beyond what the setback is in the PUD zoning document. And so we're taking those steps to make sure that we're trying to lessen that impact on those existing residents.
I have a question for, I don't know, either applicant or staff. So I'm actually confused by the summary and the language here. Exactly. Like, well, here it says we're going to change it to planned residential development. That's the summary. I realize it's not the legal text, but that doesn't say anything to me about multifamily. So can you tell me precisely what are the changes being contemplated?
Yes, Commissioner Schechter. So this type of housing product is really in between single family and multifamily.
Okay.
It's what you would call horizontal multifamily
Like
because
townhomes kind of style,
well,
is that it?
some are duplexes and some are single family.
Okay.
And so it's really a hybrid, but it's all one parcel and the units are for rent instead of for sale.
Okay.
And so if you compare it in the marketplace, you might compare it to, a multi-story, multifamily residential project. But you might also compare it to, a more urban type, small format, single family homes or a duplex development.
So now,
It
what
really
kind
lives
of
kind of-
development does the existing PUD allow?
The existing PUD calls for some commercial and some residential. Is it multifamily?
It's single family detached.
Single family.
Single family
Okay.
specifically. And how long has, I'm seeing is from this PUD amendment report, is it correct? So that's been in place since 2003 and it was modified in 2009 for
the
middle
Goddard
school.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm wondering, is it possible that the people who bought houses there beginning in 2003, could they have a reliance interest in the sense that they bought there, kind of relying on seeing what land was around them and seeing, oh, the land to the north, that's going to be single family homes. Okay, this sounds like a good place for us to buy our home. I'm wondering, could they have bought there relying on how we had that set up?
Well, that is part of the reason that when PUD amendments come forward, there is a public notice requirement. So the city actually mails to within 500 feet of the property.
Okay.
And we also post the property with a sign and we put it in the Sentinel. So all of those efforts are to communicate with the surrounding neighborhoods and also the neighborhood meetings
Okay.
that the applicant held were to also solicit and garner feedback from
So-
the neighborhood.
Yeah, so I see we got a critical letter, but then reading the applicant's summary of the meetings, it sounded like in the meetings, no one came forward to raise any critical issues like this email we received yesterday. Is that right?
Correct. We had one attendee at our in-person neighborhood meeting on March 15th. During that discussion, we talked about, again, some of the things that we changed in the site plan based on conversations with staff. He also mentioned some concerns with students from a property, an apartment complex nearby, wanting to see some sidewalks introduced along, or sidewalks or crosswalks introduced along Chambers. But then we had a voluntary second virtual neighborhood meeting on March 31st, and we didn't have any attendees present.
Wow, okay. Have we already had public comment? Maybe I missed it.
No, not yet.
Not yet, okay. Thank you.
We're still discussing.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That helps. All right, I'm good. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Heather. Is any of this project going to be affordable housing?
Affordable housing isn't contemplated at this time.
Pardon?
We are not contemplating including affordable housing at this time. Our price points, just kind of going back to your original question, it is in line with what would be affordable to residents at 80% AMI. And so I do think it's something that could be on the table. We just haven't dived deep into that offering just yet.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Heather.
Can I get to my presentation or?
And then we can follow up.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay, sorry,
Thank
Heather.
you. You can sit. Okay, so I'm pinch hitting for Nick Berry this evening, who's on paternity leave with a new baby at home. This is the Yard Homes at Frontera PUD amendment, and this is PUD A 25-0003. This is an aerial photograph showing the highlighted property in red. As you can see, this is a 16.82 acre property. And this is the only land development application moving forward at this time. In terms of the zoning, as the applicant already highlighted, the majority of the property is zoned PUD in the Hogan PUD. The small blue parcel in the far southeast corner is zoned public, and that's the parcel owned by School District 27J. The applicant's request is to modify the PUD in order to consolidate the different planning areas that were previously identified. So what you see in that top image is what the existing PUD is in terms of different parcel areas and different uses, commercial on the west side and single family detached on the east side. The proposed is on the bottom image, and that identifies this horizontal multifamily residential. The PUD also establishes development standards. One of the things to note is that this type of product is not explicitly outlined in our code. And so the applicant chose to move forward with their PUD amendment so that they could create specific development standards for this product type. Just because it's not specifically addressed in either our 2009 or our 2025 land development code. And then finally, or not finally, but moving on, the character area, as the applicant identified, is the northern neighborhoods, which allow single family as a primary use and multifamily as a secondary use. In terms of the housing and neighborhoods plan, in the comp plan, this identifies high quality buildings and site design, connections to existing neighborhoods, transitional uses between commercial and single family, and opportunities for what's called the missing middle housing product type. In terms of the traffic analysis, the traffic study did identify different intersections where there is an impact, and that's identifying based on what's existing today plus the project. And our Public Works Traffic Engineering team is working with the applicant to identify if there's any transportation improvements that will be required. In terms of the future conditions, a regional growth factor was put in place in the traffic study, and it identifies planned roadway expansions and improvements. It also utilized any known developments in the area as they would be generating traffic at build out. The Yard Homes project results in the need for a left turn onto Chambers and an east 96th Avenue and Chambers Road that will be a southbound left turn at that intersection. Oops. Sorry, I went backwards. Okay, so in terms of the comprehensive plan, staff did a thorough analysis in our staff report, but we are finding that there is a high degree of compatibility with the goals in the comp plan in terms of providing a balanced mix of land use types within the city and within this character area, providing neighborhood level services within the residential areas, and opportunities at key nodes and intersections with land for business, retail, and industrial needs. This does promote a healthy local economy, high quality site design and quality of life for the residents and businesses, opportunities for pedestrian-oriented development, and attracting retailers. More rooftops means we can attract more retailers to be a more balanced city. In terms of the housing and neighborhoods goal, this type of product promotes a full range of housing options for residents of all ages, incomes, physical abilities, and lifestyles, provides greater housing choices and neighborhood amenities, increases the affordable housing options, provides the missing middle housing, supports existing neighborhoods with appropriate maintenance and infrastructure improvements, and provides diverse housing, strong design, and open space, as well as advancing the high quality design, sense of community, and opportunities for residents to have a safe, healthy, and affordable housing choices. As the applicant highlighted, they did 2 public neighborhood meetings, and we did have the 1 public comment that just came in yesterday from a resident, and you have paper copies of that at your places tonight. In terms of the approval criteria, this is detailed in your staff report, but staff has made findings that the PUD amendment is consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan and with the PUD concept schematic. The PUD addresses a unique situation or allows for a different housing type than what typically is found in the Northern Range. In terms of the PUD complying with city standards, as we noted, this type of product is not specifically enumerated in our code, and so they are creating those standards within the PUD. The PUD is integrated with the adjacent development, and any potential impacts will be mitigated. One of the things I'd like to just pause and note with regard to the letter we received, some of the items that were identified in terms of landscape buffers and transitions can be addressed when we get to the development plan phase of this development. Right now, we're at the high level PUD amendment phase, and so they haven't gotten into the design yet in terms of exactly how the development will be laid out and how those buffers to the existing neighborhoods will be provided. But that is definitely something that staff will work with the applicant on as they move forward if they are to get approval of this PUD amendment. So just wrapping up, In terms of adequate facilities, this has been reviewed by our development review team and our outside agency partners. There is not an opportunity to do this type of development without a PUD. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission make a recommendation of approval to the City Council. And the reasons being, it's supported by the goals and objectives of the comp plan and meets the applicable approval criteria. And I'm happy to answer any further questions that the Commission has before you move into the public comment portion of the hearing.
I have a question. Is it possible that, I appreciate what you're pulling up the comprehensive plan, talking about the goal for Commerce City, diverse, uses and everything. Is it possible though, that if we zoom in a little bit, that looking at the character area designation in the comprehensive plan, is it possible that that might actually give a different outcome? That for the northern neighborhoods, the primary land uses are single family homes and that multifamily residential is a secondary use and to be less prevalent? I'm wondering if that might be like a different reading might give a slightly different answer.
Well, the character area in the northern neighborhoods does call for single family as the primary use and multifamily as a secondary use, as you identified. I think what's important to keep in mind is what the housing needs assessment that the city did last year identified in terms of we already have a high degree of single family residential. And so providing opportunities for other types of housing products, such as this, for example, allows for a more balanced community.
Okay, thank you.
So if it was to stay as it was, how dense would the residential area be if it stayed detached? How many homes would you be able to fit in that area roughly?
I don't know if the applicant has done that kind of math. I'm sorry, staff has not done that equation.
Is it fair to assume this would be more dense?
If it was single family detached, no.
No. If we were to change to the applicant's request, is it fair to assume it's more dense than if we left it as the currently zoned single family detached?
This would be more dense in terms of residential because the whole area is becoming residential as opposed to half commercial and half single family detached.
So even if you left out so just assume then the residential area, would it be less or more dense if it was just the residential area if we ignore the commercial section? I'm just saying the per acre of the entire situation.
Oh, okay. Well, this type of product is more dense than your traditional single-family detached product because the housing units themselves are smaller and the yards are smaller.
Okay, that leads to my next one. Curious how there's three aspects of the comprehensive plan. I was just curious about how does it create the competitive local economy since we're taking out commercial, we're putting in more residential, which would limit, I guess, economic activity. Secondly, all ages and all incomes. I don't know, he said 80%, and I didn't hear what the last portion of the income was, but it does sound like it's fairly high. I mean, there's no low income, as he stated. So I don't know how it matches that that all incomes area. And then finally, the open space. That was my concern for density. How is it facilitating our open space if we're actually reducing the amount of open space that would be and increasing the density of homes?
Commissioner Kiefer, to answer your questions one at a time, with regard to the retail versus residential, what's important to keep in mind is what our economic and community vitality team often echoes for council, which is when you build the rooftops, you're enabling the retail to come in. And what we continue to hear in Commerce City is that we need more residential rooftops to support the type of retail that the community wants to see. So that's the trade-off when you are switching from commercial to residential. You also have to look at what the current market is. And obviously commercial is not as well supported as it was in the past. And so it's not unusual to see in these older PUDs to switch from commercial to residential to adjust to what the market is today. And then your third question.
Before you go too much further, just the portion of the rooftops for economic vitality. I did happen to recently look into it. There's another city in the area that is 1/4 the size of Commerce City. And then divided by the north and south, you assume 30,000 up north. They were going to have an additional grocery store for 14,000 residents. So they were going to have two. So it wasn't additional rooftops that got it. It was the overall desire and design plan. So I'm just curious as to how we prove that the additional rooftops are portioned to that, because it doesn't seem to be accurate in other areas of the metro area. And if that's a question for another time, I do apologize. That was concerning to me. What?
That's not.
I do apologize. That was my fault. Continue.
Okay, your second question was actually on the diversity of housing product types and what the comprehensive plan envisions. This type of product is attractive to both young professionals that are not able to purchase a home yet, and also to empty nesters that are wanting to downsize and not be tied down to a particular property or a mortgage. It also is more conducive to individuals living as opposed to a larger family. And as the applicant said, provides a different product type for folks that have pets that are not as well suited for an apartment building. And so staff did find that this type of product increases the diversity for Commerce City and provides what's called that missing middle, which is what most cities are craving at this point for different demographics within the city. And then your third question had to do with open space. This type of development has smaller yards, but it has larger areas of common area open space and amenities. So in your traditional single family home, you might have a house with a large yard. In this case, folks don't want to maintain that yard or own that yard. So they have a much smaller yard, and then they have common areas that they can use either to walk their dogs or to congregate or to recreate. And then you also have open space areas that are for landscaping or for stormwater detention. So when we get into the site development plan phase, we'll be able to see exactly where those open spaces are. But I don't think it's fair to say that we'll have a reduction in open space with the shift to this housing product type.
Thank you.
Commissioner Van Huzen.
Thank you. Would the sidewalks and roads within this development be then private and maintained by the developer?
Yes, they would be private.
Questions? Okay, we're going to move on to, do any members of the public wish to provide comments on this case?
Yes, Chair.
Could you please say your name and address?
Yes, my name is Hugo Montano. My address is 10170 Jasper Street. So it's right like 3 houses right to where they want to build this place. Honestly, we don't like it. Build more apartments in there, but if you guys agree, that's fine. My big concern is open the street. I don't know if they're gonna open the street, Jasper Street, all the way to Joplin. So that's my concern. We do 3 neighbors here, and we agree, don't open the street. That street is closed right now. So we don't want more traffic in there. And I know their traffic, they talk about the traffic, like slow, calming down. There's many, there's a school. So there are many people drive every day there, back and forth for Joplin Street. So I don't know how they're gonna reduce that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else present that would like to provide public comment? Is there anybody virtually, Frank?
No, Chair.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to respond to any public testimony?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll try to be quick on that point. There's a very good point raised. Originally, when we were having conversations with staff, we didn't want to have a connection to Jasper. In conversations with fire and emergency, they would like to have some way for them to access that site if for whatever reason one of our other points of egress are not available to them. But at this current time, we will not have resident access on Jasper or anything like that. It will solely be for fire and life safety access only. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Chair, with Commissioner Schechter needing a break, do you want to take a 2-minute?
Sure,
2-minute
we'll
break?
take a 2-minute break till Commissioner Schechter gets back. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip right over your presentation.
Oh, you're fine. No worries.
Sorry.
We took a 2-minute break.
Oh, that's very nice.
And now we need Commissioner
The Hazen.
Okay.
Beck.
Yes.
See what you started?
I'm just like, that was the Chinese food side. I feel like the police departments.
Chair, it looks like you have all your commissioners present. Had you closed the public hearing yet?
No, I was just going to
Okay.
do that. At this time, I will close the public hearing for this case. Is there any discussion from the commission?
I do. After listening to everything and weighing everything up and having a previous discussion. So residents aren't allowed to change PUDs. It was pretty clearly stated. Their developers asking to change the PUD here, and we don't have anything from the community asking for it, and it seems like we only have things going against it. So I'm just concerned that we're going down a direction that it's almost like a zip tie. We can go one direction, but not the other. And I think we're harming the current residents in that area, as I didn't get a full mitigation strategy to someone bought a home there, expected a certain thing to happen. Now it's going to change without their consent. And so that's where my concern lies with this.
Commissioner Van Huzen?
I think that the uniqueness of this project is admirable. I'm not sure that this is the right location. I would like to think that it could work and should work, and that Commerce City would be able to embrace a creative type of housing. However, I'm not exactly sure losing some commercial sites is what we need in that neighborhood. Although right now, we're being told we need more roofs. Well, if we put all roofs and have no sites for commercial, that's my only concern. It's not a yay or nay on this. There are just two factors that I'm weighing. One is I like the creative approach to a new type of housing. The other is I really don't like to lose potential commercial space. And it seems like maybe the residents are a little unsure, as most of us are, with something new. That's just a comment.
Commissioner Nelson?
I'd like to echo some of the sentiment from the previous commissioner on the diversity and the affordability of this project. I really like that. I think the points on the commercial aspect of this property, I'm not as concerned with, due to the fact that this isn't prime commercial real estate area. And I think if we were just waiting for a developer to come in and they were going to guarantee us a commercial spot for this, I think we'd be waiting for a very long time, which would then present this parcel as never being developed. I think giving the opportunity for a developer to come in and put some unique housing, more affordable housing, is great. I think our community can use that. So I think, my considerations is I would approve. I'm willing to hear from any of the other commissioners' opinions, but I do like the amendment of this. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add, Commissioner Schechter?
Yeah, I do think reliance interests are important. When people buy houses and move into a place, I think it's important, they take into account what kind of development could go on around us. And yeah, I might lose these views, and that's just part of what you get. And since 2003, we've been telling people in that neighborhood that there's a certain type of development that's going to go in next to them. And this is asking to change those expectations. And then, thank you. I appreciate the questions and answers you gave me about the comprehensive plan. I think the comprehensive plan doesn't support this as strongly as we might think. And then you mentioned the housing needs assessment. Back in September, I did just a private citizen sort of analysis of this, and I sent it to the then city council and the planning people. And I'll figure out a way to get it into the public record for this. But just in summary, I'm very skeptical about the findings of that housing needs assessment. I found conflicting data, missing city comparisons, unexplained data removal, unclear survey methods, overgeneralization, and unsourced claims. Just to give you one little example, they showed a bunch of comparative cities around us showing, and the result was showing that Commerce City had the lowest per capita income of all the comparison cities showing that we really need some low-income housing. However, that assessment left out North Glen, Aurora, and Denver. All of those have lower income than Commerce City. So a very skeptical person could read that to think, now, why did they leave out these big comparison, comps, as a real estate person would say? It makes us look worse off than we are. That would be a very skeptical read of it. So the housing needs assessment is not persuasive to me as saying that this is really required right here, right now.
Okay, I think I want to reiterate stuff that was already said, but my concern is the commercial property, and next to Tower Road, Chamber is a very well-traveled street and thoroughfare between 96th and 104th. And there is already commercial property that's just north of that. And I feel that taking away commercial property that we have, because we don't have a lot of it up there as it is, and turning it into residential, like you said, Commissioner Van Huzen, that if we keep turning commercial into residential for rooftops, we won't have any commercial to have retail up there anyway. My second point is there is already 3 other communities like this up in that area. There is AMH, which is a rental community, and they have actually 2 communities, one at 104th and Highway 2, and then there's one that was supposed to be Everly Place that is between Potomac and Blackhawk, and probably about 101st and 100th down in that area. And then you have a villa that's up on 120th and Buckley, which is a huge community. And very similar to these projects where they have single-family homes, small yards, and there's a lot of them in a very dense area. And then right across the street from this project is going to be another project built that is going to be a multi-complex apartment building. And then you have the apartment building next to that. And then you have apartments that are up and down 104th right near that. So it seems to me like if we make this another rental community property, we're going to keep turning properties up there into rental communities, and it's going to be a whole area of rental. The North Range is going to be all rental communities, besides the family single homes that are already there. My third point is market rate. So if it's market rate, it's going to be comparable to what AMH already has or a villa has, and it's not going to be, it doesn't seem like, to me, it would be affordable for some people to be able to rent it. Because at AMH, they're going starting at $2,700. Up at a villa, a 1-bedroom, I think is like $1,800. So I don't know if it will be affordable for a lot of people to be able to live there. My other point is that the rental properties that are up there all have vacancies, and I don't know what the normal vacancy rate is out of a rental community, but all of the rental properties up there, the 2 AMH communities, the villa community that are all single-family homes, and then all of the rental, the apartment buildings up there all have vacancies. All of them have 10% vacancies. So we already have rental properties up there that already have vacancies, and then we're going to build another one that's coming down the pike, and then we're going to have another one. My fourth point would be traffic. I know traffic is very heavy on Chambers during peak hours. And so for them to be able to come in and out and add the traffic on Chambers, especially it goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes right there, I think it would really increase the traffic. Those are the points that I wanted to make. Can I get a motion for this case?
Motion. I move the Planning Commission enter a finding that the requested annexation zone change for the property located at northwest corner of East 120th Avenue and Chambers Road contained in case Z24-0005 does not meet the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such finding, recommend the City Council deny the annex zone change.
It's PUD.
Yeah, wrong case number.
Do you want to read the whole thing again?
Yeah, strike that.
Fair enough. Yes. I move the planning commission enter a finding that the requested PUD amendment for the property located at 10,230 Chambers Road and 15955 East 101st Way, contained in case PUD A25-0003, fails to meet the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such finding, recommend the City Council deny the PUD amendment.
Could you cite the criteria that you're finding are not met?
I apologize, I did note that. The competitive local economic benefits, the open space, the basis upon that it's the primary use for single-family homes, and there is a significant amount of the multifamily homes in the area, including the one across the street, and not meeting the LDC on the economic interests.
I'm referring to the approval criteria for PUD amendments. And if you need reference to those, I've got those up on the screen.
Do you need me to read, just cite?
You can just cite the
Yes, so
letters.
criteria A and criteria C.
You said A and C?
I second.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Kiefer and a second by Commissioner Sector. Is there any discussion? Please open the electronic voting.
Wait, discussion.
Oh, I.
That's okay.
Okay, Commissioner, can't use it.
I'm really torn with this one because I'd like to see a potential for this. I think my swing vote is probably going to say, I don't want to lose the commercial, but I don't mind their concept at all. So this one's kind of hard for me. I wish maybe they would have taken a little time to try and work with Commerce City to see what type of businesses would be appropriate for that portion. So as I said, I'm having a moment where I could vote either way, and I probably won't know until I push the button. But I don't actually oppose the development at all. I'm just not very happy with losing a little bit of the commercial on that strip. That's my only comment.
Any other comments?
The motion on the table is to recommend denial to City Council, so an affirmative vote supports that recommendation for denial.
Please open electronic voting. The motion passes 3 yeses, 2 nos.
This case is scheduled to move forward to City Council. First reading would be May 18th, and second reading is the public hearing, and that would be June 15th.
Thank you. Okay, is there any commission business to discuss at this time? Any attorney business to discuss?
No, Chair.
Is there any staff business to discuss?
Just wanted to thank you for your participation in the study session earlier this evening with regard to the legislative zoning. And put on your calendars that date that I highlighted, which is June 22nd.
All
We
right.
do have some cases upcoming for the next Planning Commission meeting, including the continued case from tonight.
Okay, thank you. The time is now 8:54 and the regular meeting is adjourned.
You guys.